So, I hope everybody found the door to this hidden room.
Hello, this is Laurent Schmidt speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And I can see my co-moderator, Esther. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, Ludwig.
So shall we wait a minute? We have to walk down the entire floor and find the right door.
Exactly.
And then if you don't mind, Esther, I share the slides that we have prepared. So here we go.
Good.
So,
Yes, maybe I should introduce you a bit more properly.
yeah, people had learned that I ask nasty questions, but they don't know nothing else.
Yes, they know nothing about you. But let me tell, Ludwig Karg is from Germany, the member state from Europe, of course, and he works over 30 years in sustainability, digital energy, and in the energy business. He also owns the company Baum, the consulting company, and with that he has also a very strong focus and interest in in the environment and renewable energy. And that makes him also a trusted partner of governments and local authorities for developing master plans for the energy transition.
But then let me tell you why there's a good reason that I cooperate with Esther here, because I mean, she's a bit younger. She is only 20 years on the road with energy, but we share a lot of common views on the future, I think. And we have been talking a lot. So Esther, she's from the Netherlands, and she also works in energy business since more than 20 years as an advisor, project leader, also for big companies. So today, she is the director of an energy cooperative corporation. I cannot pronounce it in Dutch. Coöperatie, or how do you pronounce that?
Coöperatie.
Coöperatie in the Netherlands.
Yes.
It's in the area between Utrecht and Amsterdam, and they build what I would call an energy community. But maybe we come back to that later, Esther.
Yes.
First, let's introduce a bit what we are going to do. We have invited representatives from 3 projects, and everyone who represents one of these 3 projects gets exactly 99 seconds to present him or herself and the project. This is a challenge, but it can work. And after that, and they need not dig into the details, because after that we have a panel discussion, and for the panel discussion we also invited 2 other persons. That is Laurent Schmidt. He represents the ETIP world, more or less, and Johanna Höfgen, she represents the bridge world, more or less. But I say more or less because they always represent other organizations and other clubs and other institutions as well. So they are very welcome on the panel to discuss with the representatives of the projects. All good sessions start with polls, I learned. And so we also prepared some of the polls. So the rules of the game are the same as in the plenary. I don't explain that again. But you can go to the Slido again. And if you are in Slido already, it should show you now that you can answer questions on parallel session number 4. If you make it there, in my case, it's an orange button. You go there. And I hope that our technical support can show the first question now.
Yes, I think we first have to go to the parallel session. It's on top. You have a button. You can click on it.
Yeah. On the top left, you can select. Here, I show you.
Yes, there we are.
Here, on the top left. Here is our first poll.
Yes.
I hope you made it to there. We would also be interested which sector you are representing.
Nine people already contributed. But let's wait a bit more.
I wonder how we share it, but I can share it from here if you don't mind. So we have technology providers, also others. We have to ask as well, who are the others? I think there's a lot of consultants in there. So more or less, we have a lot different stakeholder groups represented. What hurts me a bit is that we have many people, but only 12 made it to the poll. Anyway, give us the next poll. Which country are you from? So we had the helicopter view in the plenary, but where are you from now? Okay, Austrians, congratulations for getting the next round in the European Championship. I hope we will meet you in the final.
Yes.
Or we meet the Netherlands. Okay, gives us a view. We are quite spread over Europe. And our third poll. So what are you doing if you don't follow our regional workshop? Esther, we have the right people.
Yes. Yes, I can see that.
So most of you are in somehow consumer, prosumer, citizen, energy, community, people's business. So,
yes, or digitalization, which is also.
Then let's go. So the most trickiest part, I ask Sergio Olivero, Alessandra Porfido, and Marcel Schweitzer show up, prepare for the 99-second sprint.
Okay.
Sergio?
Well,
Sergio will start. Sergio is from Italy. He has a very sounding job title. I must read that. I have found that, I don't know where, LinkedIn. He is Head of Business and Finance Innovation at the Energy Center of the Politecnico of Torino. I thought Politecnico is about technology. Now you are Head of Business and Finance, you will explain. And above all, you will not talk about businesses and you will not talk about kilowatts and kilo hours. You will talk about a small municipality that implemented a new organizational structure in the Alpine space. This is interesting. I'm looking forward to the 99 seconds and to your contributions to our panel.
Okay, thank you.
I show you the slides that you gave me. Go ahead.
Okay, so I will try to stay within the boundaries. So Renewable Energy Community of Magliano Alpi. Magliano Alpi is a small city in northern Italy near the border with France with 2,000 inhabitants. In December 2020, the first renewable energy community was created in compliance with the Italian law that early adopted the RED II directive. The idea is clearly to put the prosumer as the center of energy transition, but also to propose innovative business models to generate value. Please note that in Italy today there is plenty of bonuses and national incentivation schemes, so that there's a lot of money available. That's why renewable energy community are experiencing a boom. Magliano Alpi is just the catalyst of a wider process, especially, for example, Comunità Collinare del Friuli, 15 municipalities, 50,000 inhabitants, is now implementing a similar approach in order to create 80 renewable energy community by mid-2023. There are other 7 municipalities in other Italian regions, and also a memorandum of understanding was signed with the city of Essen. This makes Magliano Alpi very proud, considering the authoritativeness of Essen in renewable energy sector. There are ongoing agreement with ENEA, the Italian Agency for Energy, clearly with the Energy Center of the Politecnico, and also with the ERI Grid initiative by the some simulations will be made in the laboratories of the European Commission in Petten in the Netherlands.
Congratulations, and more or less, can you explain in 20 seconds how it works to this picture?
Okay, very quickly. Renewable energy community represent a way to boost the local ecosystem in order to create new business opportunities for local companies, designers, and so on. This is probably the main outcome, that is incentives related to energy sharing and energy self-consumption is important. But the revenues coming from this kind of approach are at least one order magnitude higher, so they are really a key factor to foster the development of renewable energy communities, especially in Italy today.
But the picture says there will be multiple of those, and they are somehow in a circle, so they cooperate. So this is a system of systems or something.
Yes, clearly it works well today in Italy because there's a lot of money available.
Okay. Thanks. That was more or less 99 seconds.
Yes.
We have a poll. Is after every presentation, we ask you guys, and if you present it, please, to what degree do you feel that this project deals with people? You rate it on a line of 1 to 7 stars. I give it 6. How do you rate it? Oh. Oh.
So your vote counts.
Well, it's on the right side.
Yes.
This is good. It's about people.
Yes. We leave the poll open, and it gives me the opportunity to look if Alvaro Sanchez Mijares is in the cohort as well. Is he there? No.
Alessandra will present it, but I wonder if Alvaro is here as well.
Not yet. He's joining in a while.
Oh, okay. All right. And welcome, Alessandra. I understood you are also in the ReDream project. You're based in Spain, in Madrid. one of the also one of the member states of Europe, and you are connected to the University of Camillas. And please tell us about your project.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for having us here. I think it's a pleasure for us to share our project. First of all, I would like to explain what REDREAM stands for, and REDREAM stands for Real Consumer Engagement through a new user-centric ecosystem development for end users in a multi-market scenario. I know it sounds very long. I hope at the end of this presentation it will be a bit clearer. What we want to do, we want to create this connected user-centered ecosystem. How we plan to do so? The project starts from the application of the service dominant logic, which basically put the consumer at the center of the ecosystem. So from the very beginning, we had consumers involved into the ecosystem development and co-design. By doing so, we enable the effective participation of people in the energy market because we try to respond to their effective necessities. And also we foster demand response tool and energy and non-energy services in order to have them to enable them to participate even more in the energy market, basically. As you can see from the slides, there are 15 partners involved in 8 different countries, and we have 4 demo sites: one in Spain, one in Italy, one in Croatia, and one in UK. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so how is REDREAM connected to consumer and citizen engagement? On one side, consumer and citizen engagement is an input for the project. Indeed, as I said, the ecosystem is co-designed with consumers, and also they are continuously involved into the ecosystem development as we try to involve them in any step from design to validation. And afterwards, they are also involved via gamification. And on the other end, the engagement is also an output of the ecosystem as we empower people by shifting the electricity system balancing responsibility from producers to prosumers. And by doing so, we also support people in vulnerable conditions as we try to mitigate energy poverty. In addition, we increase the reliability of the innovative energy services and their accessibility so that people can get even more involved into the framework. And we try to create a community by gathering people and their experience into an energy social network, which will be created on purpose in relation to the ecosystem. So I try to be as quick as possible. I hope I was on time.
These Spanish people have an advantage. They can speak so fast. So, but how do you see the REDREAM? Are they in the people's business? Can we do a big poll? Can I get the poll for the REDREAM? To what degree does REDREAM involve consumers, customers, citizens? I give it a 6. Yeah. Well, in the people's business. To be honest, otherwise we wouldn't have selected you. We just want to check, Esther, if we did it right, huh?
Yes, it's our check, right?
Our check. So the next one is R2EC, to be presented by Marcel Schweitzer. He's from the Technikum Wien. And when you look at his vita, yet another person who serves in academia and at the same time in industry, because he also is a deputy of the executive director of the Austrian technology platform. Right, Marcel?
That is correct, yes.
So that is set. You have 99 seconds to say the rest.
Thank you very much, Ludwig. Welcome, everybody. Today I will present our project R2EC. Very quickly, what is R2EC? R2EC stands for Regional Renewable Energy Cells. In our project, we are analyzing 5 different test beds in Austria, Belgium, and Norway. Within these test beds, we try to create and develop so-called energy cells. These energy cells, you can see the concept of these on the bottom left side. Basically, we combine the different households with a community. Within these households, you have photovoltaics, you have electric vehicles, you have the household energy, storage capabilities, of course, and as well, we have photovoltaic, community photovoltaic and community storages. What are our aims for these different test beds and what are we going to do with these energy cells? First of all, we have a heavy emphasis on co-creation workshops with our users. Second, we try to develop new business models for these energy cells. With these business models, we try to simulate our energy cells with an agent-based simulation models. This gives us a very detailed and exact overlook of our energy cells. And fourth, we are going to implement these energy cells in our laboratory, which means all components we are going to use in this, or we would use in these energy cells, are represented in the laboratory. And this is then a version you can scale up and show that a bigger energy cell in the real world is also possible. Next slide.
Does it work? You have a histogram?
It does, yes. So stakeholder involvement and management is a key aspect in R2EC. By conducting workshops in the testbeds, participants are always kept up to date about results and ongoing processes within the project. Surveys amongst the participants, on the other hand, provide insight into attitudes, expectations, and actual energy behavior of potential energy community participants. We prepared two results of the last survey we conducted. First of all, we can see that in Belgium, people have a heavier emphasis on cost reduction to join energy cells and energy communities than compared to Austria. Of course, this is just in our test beds. And the second results show that in Austrian test beds, people are more willing to have an automated control over their different components and their different, like ventilation or the washing machines, compared to the Belgium test beds.
So yes, people are different, huh?
Yes.
Thanks for this quick introduction. I saw 3 people in 4 houses. Does that somehow tell us something?
3 people in 4 houses. No, not really.
Well, we did it right, Esther.
Yes.
We selected a good one.
On the good side of the 4, right?
Thanks, Marcel, for presenting.
Yes.
So.
And in our panel, we have also Johanna. Johanna Hufken, she is in the Netherlands. And please, Johanna, could you introduce yourself in 99 seconds and maybe also express your view on the entire exercise and what do European Horizon 2020 and Bridge aim to learn and capture from this event?
Great. Good morning, everyone. It's a bit boring. I hope to make it a little exciting because I didn't prepare a slide, so sorry for that. My name is Johanna Höfgen and I work at Eindhoven University of Technology, which in itself is a bit funny because I'm a social scientist working at a technical university. But we've seen that before, so that people seem very technical and then they're engaged with, very social questions. I'm here as the Bridge representative. What is Bridge? Bridge is actually, you can call it a platform set up by the European Commission to capture all the knowledge we have just seen. So we have seen 3 projects which are, delivering results, having really insights into practice, and Bridge really wants to make use of that. and sort of suck it all out and share it widely. So that's the idea of Bridge. So Bridge has this access to all these Horizon 2020 funded projects about smart grids, about energy storage, sort of energy islands. So many different projects, and they all come together in Bridge. And there we work together in order to, ask questions about different aspects. One of them is consumer and we call it consumer and citizen engagement, because framing matters, but maybe we can talk about this a little later as well. And I'm here as the representative of these consumer and citizen engagement people within Bridge, and there we also have different focal points. Yeah, so for example, we look into drivers of engagement or strategies, or we also look into governance models or smart tools. So there are different focal points within engagement, because as you know, engagement is probably quite difficult to just rate, is this now engagement or not, just as the exercise which we just did, which is just a teaser, I think. But really, it's much more. And I think that is also what you can see within Bridge. We have different focal points. And I'm here to present Bridge to you, hopefully, and also share some of the knowledge which is a bit more, it's a bit less practitioner oriented. So maybe placing what we hear in a broader context, at least sort of this is the knowledge I can bring here. And I'm very happy to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Johanna, we don't do a poll on you. You are obviously in people's business. You get 7 stars.
Yeah, I guess thanks a lot. But I think the question really is that, and we can come into that later, is engagement always good? And when is it actually good? And I think these are the questions which are much more important. And the other one, I mean, just to sort of put it here, so we have so much interesting projects. So I don't want to talk much longer because I think 2 more are coming.
Yeah.
But we see also, and I think that's one of the things, to who do we have to convince? I think many of the people here are already very much convinced, and here it's really a time to learn.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's probably also very important to actually have projects we don't have that yet. So I think that's sort of just,
And our questions will be, how do we convince the others? And
exactly.
what are the experience from the project?
Yeah,
so we have yet another person on the panel. I hope that Laurent Schmidt can show up. Yes, here he is. Here. Laurent, welcome. As you had heard in the plenary session, there's a cooperation between the Bridge world and the ETIP world. So Johanna today represents more like the Bridge. You, Laura, you represent more like the ETIP. But can you tell us a bit about you? What are you representing there?
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me. So I'm part of the working group 4 of ETIP, but I'm also part of the SMART-N, which is the Flexibility Service Provider and Demand Response Association in Europe. And we have started to do some effort on what are the key areas to unlock and enable prosumer flexibility in an easier way. So I'm very interested to attend and listen the outcome of this project. What I can say as input is we've seen 3 important elements to enable prosumers. One is to simplify the interface, so is bringing more interoperability of data, benchmarking data to consumer, data access from the grids so that consumer can interact with the system. We see the second element as the monetary incentive, so providing a proper price signal to incentivize proper behavior. So we learn from this project in Austria that definitely the price element is key. And the last one is we also see some new elements of gamification coming up, particularly related to the carbon footprint and trying to incentive reduction and effort of reduction of carbon footprint. And that's where we see community playing a key role. And we see 2 kinds of communities. Some are virtual and some are physical. Okay. And so we are very interested to learn more and discuss about these growing trends from the projects.
Thank you, Laurent. But you said something. You said something. If you pay people, they engage themselves or something. Is that your experience? Let me do another poll before we get into this panel discussion. Can we show this poll that we had prepared on? Is there something else but money that drives people? So you can enter a word What drives people to actively promote energy transition? Don't put money. That's difficult when you believe that money makes it. Laurent, did you put another choice?
I put savings, I must say. I'm a bit biased. Simply because we do see, coming from the SmartN environment, we do see definitely very successful projects when it comes to demand response, which are driven by the money incentive. But once again, we are not saying it is the only incentive. We are saying it's one of them. And my last point was precisely to go more towards gamification, awareness, and social consciousness around crisis elements. I would say climate elements. So definitely, I fully agree with what I see here.
So there are other drivers. Johanna, are you happy as a sociologist?
Well, actually, I think I'm happy as a human that money doesn't make the world go round. So I think it's very good that people are actually engaging because I think we have to. I think money doesn't. It's really less and less important.
Okay, we will see. We will dig a bit more into that. Wait a second. With our panel, let's give it a try. We are only 7 people. Maybe we can show up all the same time. If you switch on everybody. So Sergio, Alessandra, is Alvaro here now? Okay, Marcel.
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, you can also show up. The dream couple from Comillas.
Yes. So,
well,
this is Álvaro from Comillas University. We are here. I am here representing Recruiting Project. It's a project about social research and customer engagement, where we are testing things, as Alessandra has explained before, regarding flexibility and how to engage consumers in energy communities, and how can we get the most from them to make an efficient energy transition.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, Alvaro. Happy to have you together with Alessandra.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Normally, when you have co-moderators, they don't ask questions to themselves. In this case, I would like to ask a question to Esther, because when we prepared, I asked that question, and then she had such a brilliant answer that I would like her to share it with you. I asked her, Esther, do you really believe that it's a good idea that many people own electricity generators and use their own energy? We claim that this is important, and then we try to make many people do it. Is it a good idea at all, and why?
Yeah, there are many reasons why. The quick reason you often hear is if you make your own electricity, it lowers the pressure on the infrastructure, on the grid, for instance. But there's also another one. If you look at it for instance, in the inclusion of people, if you say that everybody needs to participate, customer participation. What is participation? Because it can also be, if you only are rich, so if you have a lot of land, then you can have your solar panels or your windmills or whatever. But if you have no roof, for instance, because you're a bit older, you live in an apartment, or you're very young, does it mean that you cannot contribute to the energy transition simply because you don't have the space or the area to have renewable production? So that's one aspect if it comes to own production. And another aspect is is if you live in a nice area with nice trees or nice fields, and there will be windmills or which are a bit noisy, or large solar fields will be built, and a large multinational comes in and gets all the revenues, then the people who live there, they don't accept that anymore. And it's not in my backyard, the famous quotes what people say. But if you live in a nice community and you want to have local energy, then it's very logical to have it produced by local people, simply because they might suffer, and then the revenues goes back to the community itself.
So it's a question of inclusion. At the end, it's a question of inclusion. Everybody has the right to participate in energy transition. That's what you say, huh?
Yes, yes.
So what do the others say? Shall we start with the Austrians?
Yes, I think Marcel, because Marcel did some research, I understand. And in your project, Marcel Schweitzer, you analyze different cells.
Yes.
And cells sounds very technical. One question pops: why do you call it cells? We talk about people, so maybe you can say something about it. But
well, we call it cell. Today you would call it energy community, but back when our project started, it was all around energy cells. You know, you had many energy projects which revolved around cells and energy cells, so we called them cells. As I said, today you would call them energy community, and they are more or less the same. Like some technicalities may be a little bit different about, you know, the geographic scope of things and such, but essentially they are energy communities.
Yes. Yeah, and you analyzed them and you looked at them, and did you find different motivations or drivers for change in those energy communities?
Oh yes, definitely. The main two ones are money, of course, but also changing the environment. In some of our co-creation workshops back in 2019, when we were still able to do them live with the people, the demographic of the participants were a little bit on the older side, and these peoples were more inclined on changing the environment, you know, doing something for future generations than just focusing on the money aspect. This was very clearly demonstrated in our recent survey as well, where in Belgium, for example, where the demographic was a bit younger than in Austria, people were more focused on money than in Austria, where people were older. And we are not saying that this is because Austrians don't like money or something. We think that it's more because on the one side, we have older people from smaller villages, and on the other side, we have younger people from urban areas, if that makes sense. So there is definitely a big difference between the different energy cells we look at in terms of motivation and yes.
And I think that was the sociologists or psychologists called customer or stakeholder segmentation. So we need to accept that people are different. Huh?
Exactly.
So is there? I don't know. I do not even recall where I read it. I have noted down that someone said, was it Laurent or someone said, you have to hide the complexity of the flat platform from the user. Did you say that at some point, Laurent? Is that true? Does that help if you hide the complexity? Or is it that young people can keep up with the complexity, whereas the oldest need it easy? Can you switch on? That reduces complexity.
Sorry.
Read the lips.
What we see is the energy system as such is very complex, and it requires complex interaction with the end user. And we have to simplify this interaction. What also needs to be simplified is the automation of this interaction. And we should not expect consumer and prosumer to look at their bills or tariffs or costs every day, because they will see pennies of euros, and that's not the way to organize that interaction. So that's what we mean by simplifying the data, being able to compare, benchmark. It's very, very important.
So benchmarking is something that people like. Is that true, or can you call it gaming? Sometimes
yes,
I hear gaming.
Gamification, yeah.
Gamification is a good idea to involve people. Does gamification reduce complexity? I mean, I'm playing complex games. Young people play very complex games.
There are rewards in games. Is that what you're after?
Okay, can I comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the environment of citizen, well, we have to consider that today in Italy, the environment is money, in the sense that there are bonuses for building retrofit, that is to make electric thermal load electric, thus transforming a building into a smart building that can also be converted to become an energy community. Practically speaking, especially for multifamily houses, if you take a 40 flats multifamily house, the typical average investment for retrofit is about 1 million euro, that is entirely paid by national incentives. In addition, renewable energy communities, or in case of buildings, collective self-consumers, as they are called by Italian law, get 100 euro per megawatt hour incentive for self-consumed energy. That is that in this case, the involvement is made on the base on the available incentives. You have also to consider the word of mouth, because after the retrofit, a building enters the market again. They are typically buildings built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So today they have no value practically. They become valuable. So this makes people understand that renovation and energy transition is, how can I say, a good news, and this is what's happening today.
Sergio now has the business professor speaking, but I mean, someone, I don't know whether it was you or the mayor, managed to get people involved in Mariano Alpi. I mean, this is citizens. Mariano Alpi, if I recall, they have been the village of the year in the Alpine space at some point of time. So they are moving forward as a city, as a village.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
how did you get the people involved in this energy thinking and in restoration and whatsoever? Has it really been money there?
Well, at the beginning, it was, how can I say, a dream that was proposed to some citizens and companies who were strongly convinced that energy transition and green economy is our future. But they were convinced also because, economically speaking, they just got advantages. Today, the main driver is word of mouth, because people see how renewable energy community can create advantages for people. Yet at the same time, they understand that innovation makes your life better, because you spend less, you have more beautiful buildings, you, how can I say, share a common view about the future of the community. So now it is a combination of culture, narration, and money.
Didn't you say that you are also engaged in this Alpine Pearls tourism club? Is it also that the village can become more attractive for tourists if they, I don't know, behave
yes,
well in terms of energy transition?
Well, the idea, I am also the president of the scientific committee of the RECAP initiative. That is an initiative by the Alpine Pearls. That is a group of 23 municipalities along the Alpine chain involving Italian, Swiss, German, Austrian, and Slovenia villages. And the idea is, the objective is to create many renewable energy community in order to produce renewable energy that can be used for sustainable mobility. And so a series of initiatives are being planned. The first one will be in July 23rd. That was a trip using e-bikes to Magliano, to the seaside, and then almost all villages of the Alpine Pearls will host examples on how renewable energy can be produced by renewable energy communities and used for a sustainable future.
So it's also a question of marketing. Yeah? So Esther, did you check the clock? Also so interesting, and we didn't hear Spain on this question.
No, we should ask Spain about the flexibility on the national and local level. Because I think Alvaro or Alessandra, I think in your project you analyze the flexibility. And are these different levels of organization on national level and on local level? They have their own dynamics. And could you give some examples of this customer involvement in those different levels? What are your experiences there?
What do you mean with levels? National and local?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the problem with flexibility is that sometimes it is not correctly understood. I mean, when it is at local level, it is usually due to congestions in the grid. So it supposes a reduction of the consumption, and it's good for them because at peak times, usually the energy is expensive, and local level is very easy to understand. The problem is when you are playing at national level, there is some balancing problems. And sometimes you can switch on or switch off depending on the balancing requirements. And when you are switching on when the tariff is not so in a valley price, well, sometimes they don't understand why they start consuming when the electricity is not in the cheapest time. But okay, there is a payment to compensate that increase that could compensate them, but is for them it's annoying, and it's difficult to explain them that sometimes there are a lot of renewable production, or even there are a lot of production, and they have to start consuming. Because the energy in the maybe wholesale market is expensive, but not providing balancing services. So this is something that is really difficult to explain, and we try to avoid those situations because they are not very easy to understand.
Okay, but then. Again, it sounds a bit like if we would have allowed you to put money in this picture, money would have been very big. Very big. Johanna, I mean, we will be in a situation that we have to summarize the answers. Can you help me? What did you hear as a sociologist now on these questions? Like, how do we best involve people?
Yeah, great. Yeah, what a question. And I think I don't think the answer is that do this and do that and that's it. I guess what we have heard, there is diversity in there. But I think one of the additional points I just want to make here, and I think this is also a shameless promotion of a most recent article I just got out with my PhD student, which is actually thinking about understanding what is happening within a community, between a community, and beyond a community. So if we think about systemic innovation, because the question here is about, okay, so how can we innovate that system? Yeah, and then in the question we see individuals, and then there are different aspects. Is it now money or not? And it changes over time. This is what we have heard. But I think one of the important things also is that we should not forget that there's also dynamics beyond one community and between community. And I think that is something which is really now upcoming also, because, and I think Esther in the beginning hinted towards that. So who can actually participate? She hinted towards this idea of, can everyone participate and all that? And if we only look very much close, how can I involve that very individual in that very region? We tend to forget that there's sort of a bigger system there. So I think that is another angle towards system innovation, that we should not, sort of forget these broader dynamics here. And
let's get to that. May I interrupt you for a second? I put on another poll and then you can continue, because we have a poll that says, okay, given that we want to involve people, and you said more or less you also want to involve them in groups. How do we engage groups? That is one of the questions, and that is the next question that we want to tackle. What do you guys believe? There are multiple concepts: the microgrids, the virtual power plants, energy positive districts, renewable energy communities, citizen energy communities, other collective actions. What do you believe? What say organizational form of transition is best suited to get people involved? What is your feeling? But while people are doing that, Johanna, I interrupted you. You wanted to say something on that.
No, sorry. So, but I think people now are answering there, so I don't want to influence the answers.
Come on.
No, look, I mean, again, sorry, that sounds maybe easy, but I think it's actually, I don't think there's one form. Because I think there are some people which hop onto virtual power plants and in community style, and others say we go for smart grids and that's it, and the third one wants to have an energy community. So I don't think there's one answer. I also think that probably also think there can't be one answer, especially what I just have said, because if we really want to not forget anyone, we shouldn't just have one solution off the shelf, because some people, Esther said it nicely in the beginning. I mean, they don't care about solar rooftops, because they don't even own houses, and many of my students they really so they don't care about money at all. They're much more the drivers of we don't want any more cars even. So I think, I don't know. So the answer is complex, because I don't think there is one answer. And I think, but I mean, of course, that's logical that I say, when we see that also in the results here, I don't think that technology does the job. So if it's only the technology, we see that here citizen energy communities has that air of somehow we feel it's about citizen, it's about community, and it's very sort of, socially appearing, let's put it like that.
Yeah. So it's a bit about these group dynamics, I think. Let's dig a bit into that. I must tell you that story. Last night I had a discussion. Why do people, if they can go to a football stadium, why do they pay 50 euros to go there? Do they want to make Ronaldo even richer, or why do they pay 50 euros? And a sociologist said, because they want to be together with 70,000 other people. I don't know whether that's true, but I think this gives us a direction of thinking at least. So, but let's start, Marcel. I mean, you said you talked with your people in your cells or communities about co-creating something. What does that mean, co-creation? I mean, did you call them to jointly view football, or what was that? You have to switch on, then makes it a bit easier.
Yes, that would be nice, to watch football with them. No, the co-creation within our project was mainly we conducted lots of workshops together with the users involved. We ask them surveys pretty often. We try to integrate their feedback always into the project, into the work we do in the project. But also we, at the very beginning of the project, we try to identify the needs and the wishes and the expectations of all the people, and, you know, address those needs and expectations within our project. And all of that together is kind of our co-creation process.
Did you apply what we said before, gamification? Did you? I have seen people playing with Lego blocks or so when building their environment. Did you use such gamification approaches?
No, we did not use Lego bricks or something like this. And also gamification with our solutions is also not a big part yet, but maybe we are looking into how we can make the UI or the user interface kind of gamificated. If that's the right word.
Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah.
How is that? How was that with the others? How did you engage with the people?
Yes, or Alessandra and or Alevero, in your project, you looked at a very single households and flexibility, and which groups of prosumers act on the market there, and how does it work there?
Did you bring them? My additional question would be, did you bring them together? Did you bring the households together to jointly develop something?
Yes. They go all together, and they are group. Well, they are heterogeneous. I mean, there are small consumers that are together with commercial or industrial consumers and put together, playing in the same markets and also in the same challenges at community level.
Okay, so they were cooperating with the energy supplier and the grid operator. Was that the cooperation there, or how does that work? I mean, you can, as a consumer, you cannot just say I participate. I mean,
yes, you have to. Well, the first thing is there are some energy communities in each demo site. So consumers are participating in an energy community. Maybe not, but it is not the typical case. They sign up in the project thanks to an ecosystem. When they are signed up, they are on board in the project, and yes, they have to answer some questions and some profile information, and then they are participating all together thanks to this ecosystem, where they can they are pushed to solve challenge and to participate in the flexibility.
Okay. How was that in Mariano Alpi? I mean, who triggered that development? I mean, we are a bit after understanding group dynamics. I mean, dynamic has to somehow be kicked off, I would say. Was it the mayor or who kicked off this dynamic process?
Well, the dynamic process was mainly kicked by small and medium local enterprises and designers, because making a renewable energy community means sharing an interoperability standard, and also creating a competitive success factor. Because to give you an idea, if you are a private citizen and you put a solar panel on your roof, you get 50% tax refund on your expenses. Okay. So you pay 50% of the entire cost. But if you enter a renewable energy community, you are eligible for 110 euro per megawatt hour of self-consumed energy for 20 years. That is that in 6 to 7 years, you pay the remaining 50%, and for 13 years, you get money. So practically speaking, you citizen, if you want to get this advantage, you must enter the renewable energy community. That is, if a local group of designers and companies and maintainers decided to work together to make a competitive cluster, they are the only entity capable of providing that opportunity. That is, very practically, well, the official presentation of Mariano Alpi was on March the 12th, and in the 3 months after the official presentation, the number of PV requests tripled with reference to the previous 2 years. So practically speaking, there is a combination of the interest by citizens to get clearly money and to have their bills lower. But at the same time, the renewable energy community are catalysts or clusters of companies and designers that create a competitive advantage thanks to this possibility.
So when you say it was more or less kicked off by the small companies, it's the craftspeople that said, okay, we can do something for you, we can deliver.
Yes.
Come upon us. It's not that the small companies wanted to save energy or something. It's they create an offer. They create the offer. We help you insulate your house, build your PV, and so on. So this is the trigger comes from the business people.
Yes, well, the previous trigger was by the municipality who created the. But after that, the catalyst is the business potential that makes relevant incentives available to citizens. So there is, and this creates a good narration. So today in Mariano Alpi, what can I say? Renewable energy community are fashion, but this is the result of this process that makes people happy, and so word of mouth play also a major role.
Johanna, does that bother you? I mean, you're a sociologist. Now we hear that more or less people are after saving, refund, money.
No, I mean, you know, real life, real facts. I guess it's, you know, I think it's different with what type of people, where you do it, context matters here. But I think I would like to add another dimension, which I find quite interesting. If we think about group dynamics and what we, for example, do in Bridge is that we found out that engagement is often seen as a one-off. So you measure it now and then you have a big engagement, that's it. And I think one of the things we have to think about in these projects is that engagement changes over time, and engagement is a longer ongoing activity if you want to sustain that. So I think what we are now working on within Bridge and within these projects is to ask, okay, how can we think of different phases within projects, for example, so beginning, middle, end style, and how do the people I engage, how does that also change? And I think that's an important one when we think more sustainably about, okay, you know, if we want to engage and we want to keep that up, and if we want to have a sustainable a community which is sustained for a long time and not just for a project. I think these are very important questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, Esther, please.
Okay. So I just agree with Johanna. It's very interesting. But if Laura, you did some spatial planning and motivating groups of the building owners and who play a key role in the development of distributed cellular systems. And what's wondering us is, what could the European Commission or ETIP do to support the cities and the municipalities?
So is this for me or?
Yes, go on.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely the regulation of the clean energy package is really made for facilitating and enabling citizen energy communities. And what we what I think we have to find, and that's through your input on the social scientist, is what are the motivation behind the scene to really bring the prosumer of a community on the scene, if I may say. And I'm following this discussion very interestingly. I myself part of a community in Paris, which is building rooftop PV on schools and so on. And I must say, I'm the head of innovation into this community as I would say, as a passion of that topic. And when I'm calling for a contribution among the 150 members about new ideas to build up services, I unfortunately have 5 people around the table, and they are the 5 early adopters. And this is extremely hard to really pull through the rest of the community, apart from what I've seen, gamification, comparing, how does this cost, how does this save? I have hard time really to go beyond these 5 motivated people of the communities, but I'm very interested to hear from you. I think the Commission and ETIP SNET, that we have a framework which is perfect. The question is how to make it work.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that takes me back to what we discussed half an hour ago. We have these multiple levels. What we see, and we had discussions on climate neutrality. Every country has a climate neutrality goal now, reduced by 50, 65 by 2030 or whatsoever. This is all national level. EU level has also something. And what we, in that case, my company, what we see, we do consultancy to municipalities, that now the municipality want to be climate neutral. So that brings us to the question, where does this energy part of climate neutrality, where is that being implemented? Is that a national question or is it a local question? Does it help if we take the entire energy supply thing to local level because it helps the municipality to become climate neutral? Or is it nonsense? How can we handle that situation that we act on these multiple levels with climate neutrality and at the same time with the energy supply? You know what I mean. I don't know, Laurent, if you can comment on that, or someone else, or Komias. I mean, you have been dealing with these local and national levels.
Yeah, it's a very good point you bring. I'm a true believer of the new climate neutral targets to become, I would say, a new incentive to reduce carbon overall through communities. And if you look at the new direction of the Green Deal, when it comes to basically the RED II and favoring self-consumption, yeah, and being able to monitor carbon footprint 24/7 and so on, is going to really provide new tools in gamification around CO2, that I would call it that way, in making sure every citizen of a community play a role in reducing the carbon footprint of its community. I do believe firmly about this trend. What I see when we try to bring people around the table, at the end, they just want to find a way to take action against climate change. That's what they are interested to do, I feel, in my community.
Yes, and yeah, and Sergio, can you articulate how the customer is more involved in the distributed energy system than in the traditional central system?
Well, you mean the cooperative approach, your cooperative actions? I'm not sure you have understood your.
Which region is Mariano Alpi? Where is Mariano Alpi?
Because I have I'm making a bit maybe some confusion between what is written on the slide and what was asked.
Yeah. No, the question here is, I mean, we try to somehow relate this approach of climate neutrality, which is an approach on, in many cases, on local levels. Cities want to be climate neutral, and they talk to a specific type of stakeholders. They are very often intrinsically motivated, green, environmental oriented. And then on the other hand side, we know that we need a new type of energy system to become decarbonized. And that's different people with different approaches. Can they talk together? Do they talk together in Mariano Alpi? So the energy supplier and the tourism people and the climate neutral?
Well, the energy supplier, I must say it depends on the energy supplier.
Yeah.
In the sense that there are two energy suppliers. One is called Acea Pinerolese Energia, and the other is Egea, that is another, or also Enel Distribuzione, that are other service energy provider. Acea Pinerolese Energia, now they are selling gas, but they decided to provide services and to invest in building retrofit and energy communities. That is a clear reduction of their business now, because they think they must make themselves from energy supplier to energy service supplier.
Okay.
So in this case, energy provider can be partners of this change. Clearly, it depends on the strategies at local and regional level. Clearly, there are also an interest by the finance, national and international finance. The reason is that, especially with reference to 944 directive, that in a certain sense makes networks, will make networks of renewable energy community work together. In that case, each initiative is worth several tons of CO2 that are saved.
Yeah.
Clearly, that is a too limited amount to be considered financial level. But if you put together several thousands small amount of CO2, you cluster them, you can easily create, go above threshold of eligibility. So financial sector has started. We are in contact with an investment fund who is interested in clustering these small energy saving sources, CO2 saving sources, in order to get the threshold. From this point of view, renewable energy community in Italy are private law entities. So they can also be organizational engines to provide the governance of these.
Thanks, Sergio. Yeah. Can I quickly, Marcel? Can I quickly ask you? I mean, what I'm after is we have these local approaches. Climate neutrality on local level, more or less, is a goal. People do it. They build their cells. They become climate neutral. This is fine. And then at the end, we have a system of systems. So cells of cells of cells or something. Is from the technological or GDP point of view, does that make sense? Or wouldn't it be more valuable that we invest into the overall system and make it decarbonized or whatsoever? Why do you believe that this approach that you follow is the best?
Well, our approach is the best for certain situations, like for municipalities, for communities where a lot of households are and such. I don't think that you can realistically apply this cell approach to big things, big industry, big like an airport or something like the real players, like the steel factories or something like this, you know, where huge amounts of energy is needed, where huge amounts of fossil fuels are burned, and where huge amounts of, I don't know, hydrogen has to be generated in order to make them climate neutral. And I don't think that on such a level you can look at it with a cell or with a local thing. So you have to do both. You have to set the cell approach, and the energy community approach helps with the citizens, helps with the small buildings, the small industry, the small stuff. But at the same time, you have to develop the big grid. You have to look at the big players, and for those you need a bigger picture. You need to look at it on a broader scale.
Yeah, I would love to discuss with you all evening over a glass of wine. But we have 10 minutes to go, Esther, only. Shall we ask our Johanna and...
Yes, let's ask Johanna how can we and the European Commission deal with these differences and the needs of the member states for collective action and the energy communities?
Yeah, thanks. I already called it the $1 million question. I think, I don't know, I think one of the things I took on the first one is nuance. So I think that's already, you know, we heard it just in the answer of Marcel, who said, look, you know, this applies here, but it doesn't apply everywhere. So I think one of the things really is again and again and again, yes, let's not make one solution for all. So nuance is really the one. I think another point I want to highlight is that idea that sometimes we think, you know, what we call it, it's called the boomerang effect. And the boomerang effect basically means that we increase all our renewable energy production in order to become all green and, you know, decarbonized. And at the same time, what actually happens is that in the end, we actually use even more energy. So I think in all these discussions, what is it really about? It's actually should be about of us, because, using less energy, because that in the end will actually decrease our emissions. So I think that's another point when we talk about this. Okay, so what should we do? You know, don't forget that. So the nuance, of course, the boomerang effect, just as a sort of, you know, thing to remember. I also think that, you know, and we already discussed that. I mean, what should we do? Should we now go all decentralized, or should we go? Should we invest into the main grid? I think one of the points which I made earlier is that I think we should, and there is not much research on it yet because it's so difficult to really measure and come for that. So what are the effects of many energy communities, for example, outside? So that's this idea of between, beyond. So what are the effects if we all go, if we all scale that up? So I think there needs to be a real focus on what actually happens basically next to energy communities. So what dynamics and sort of injustices may happen there. So I think that's a third point. And my last point is this whole idea where we talked about that also, is that idea of energy justice is not something which only happens within Europe. So energy justice actually also means that we should actually go way back to where all our materials and the resource or the materials we use are being mined, for example. So I think that idea of, okay, if we, you know, our energy transitions, I would even put an S at the end here, I think they are, we have to understand that this is sort of a whole thing. So we are connected globally here. So I think that's, I guess that was now my fourth point, which I would like to highlight here.
Yeah, thank you. I will ask you another question, Johanna, and also Laurent, in a minute, but let's involve our audience a bit. I checked the chat. I didn't see any real question, Esther. But what we can do, and yes, we will share the results, by the way. So there was a question, will you share the results and also of the pollings? And so, yes, you will have it. But let's do one final result. I mean, at the end of the day, this entire exercise of these regional workshops is about creating new demands or insights as to the future RDI activities in Europe. I mean, I will ask you guys, Laurent and Johanna, what your takeaway is as to what is the need for research and development. But let's ask our audience as well. I mean, if you would express in one or two words, the main gap in your country related to consumer involvement, citizen engagement, and energy communities, what is missing? Or maybe what should we develop? Or maybe what should we research on? So what shall we do to make it faster, better, bigger? Give us some hints, please. We will communicate it to all these funding program designers and the politics and so on. But while people enter that, and I don't show you the word cloud now, I show it later, you can enter it. Final question to Laurent and Johanna. What is your takeaway of this hour? Who wants to start? Who wants to start has to switch on.
Laurent, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. So, and first of all, I want to say it's a very interesting debate and very well facilitated. So thanks for that. And maybe there's a few points I would like to say. First, I was prior to this role, I was the Secretary General of ENSOE, and ENSOE did a lot of work on analyzing how the power system is evolving. And very interestingly, the main conclusion was that it evolves in a power system of systems. And this very nicely bridge basically the discussion here, where both top-down and bottom-up, we do see this this new architecture coming together. The second comment I would like to do here, and it's with my IT hat, I'm a representing technology company as well, is we have in the same time also evolution in IT architecture with grid edge intelligence, with cloud, and with more peer-to-peer exchange between solutions. And it's very interesting to map basically future IT architecture with this power system of systems and with this idea of getting a community cluster exchanging peer-to-peer for the benefit of the optimization of the system. So I do see, as a technologist, a very interesting alignment of the planets, if I may say so, between the science and what the sociologist would like to achieve from that point of view.
Thank you, Laurent. What does the sociologist want to achieve? You are speaking for the sociologists, Johanna.
Oh, okay. Well, now I have a very big hat on. No, I think it's exactly good what we're doing here, because I mean, it shows that we exchange knowledge and expertise, and we actually can talk to each other. I guess that's for many interdisciplinary collaboration already the first step. I fall a little bit into repetition, but I find it so important. So I think for me, the main thing to research and to have in mind when you think about energy transitions, it's the question about what are just energy transitions. And that for me includes that idea of sort of, like global networks, this idea of, where do we source our stuff? That leads to the question of boomerang effect. I'm repeating again, so are we all just having all our green solar panels on our rooftops and buying more? So and the third one I would really say is the question of, and I think it leads it's a question of reuse, recycle, and I think that also leads super nicely the Redream on Comea, well, the Comeas people, because they read, and I think Alvara already left, but they have a very interesting idea of not just producing everything new, but sort of recycling existing stuff. So, and I think also Laurent has some interesting insight there. But just for me, thanks also again for this great organization and the discussions around also from my side. And I hope to stay in touch. And I hope for the audience, they could take something, some inspiring ideas along. Thanks.
Final word on this one. I show the result of what has to be done. Where are the gaps? Can you somehow agree we need to create more awareness? And that's what Laurent also said, interoperability, not only technical wise, but also between stakeholder groups. So we are coming close. Take it home, take it to Bridge, take it to ETIP. We have to take it to the plenary now. And to the plenary session, yes. I hope to see you there. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Laurent. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Sergio. And thank you, Alessandra. Yes, thank you, Marcel, for your contribution. And Alvaro, of course. I think he already left. And I hope to see you in the plenary session. See you there, and you know how to get there. If you have stored your access card, you know how to join us for the final plenary. See you there. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thanks a lot.
It was a pleasure.